Spider-Man Brand New Day has come out. Let's talk about it. Brand New Day stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Mark Ruffalo, John Barthol, Jacob Batalon, Sadie Sink, Florence Pugh, Lisa Zone Calais. Sorry, that was Lisa Cologne Zayas, and Tramel Tillman. Before I like to go into this review, I just want to note that this will be a non-spoiler review. I do plan on doing a spoiler review here soon, within the next week, if not the next few days. So I just for right now would like to get into the review. So as you would imagine from the trailer, and if you watch those, Spider-Man is going through a phase. Of course, from the last movie, his friends Ned, portrayed by Jacob Batalon, hope I said his name right, and Zendaya, who is playing MJ, his love interest, they do not remember who Peter Parker is. They know who Spider-Man is because Spider-Man is very famous amongst all of the New Yorkers, but they do not know who Peter Parker is. Yeah, there's that famous scene at the end of No Way Home where Peter goes to the coffee shop where MJ is working and he orders a coffee and he has a list of basically a speech he'd like to give her when he finds her. Now he holds on to this page, and it actually is quite significant in the film, but I'm not going to get into it. It's basically just a speech of words he'd like to say in order to hopefully trigger a memory, or we introduce himself to her, hopefully to spark a new love interest between them. But well, that doesn't really entirely work out the way he'd hoped, and I'm not going to spoil it. But what I do want to say is there are some things I want to get into involving Tom Holland's Spider-Man versus Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's. They kind of affected my judgment of this film. As it stands alone, it's a pretty good film. It's got a 90% score on Rotten Tomatoes, so obviously it is, popular. But for me, it's not exactly mid. I rated it a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know if I'm being too nice, but it's weird because of John Bernthal. Yeah, Tobey Maguire, John Barthol, and Zendaya are all in the Odyssey, so this movie will help with the performance of Odyssey in theaters as well as at the box office. But that's not really the point. The point of this is that we have familiar faces. We've already established a brand with Tom Holland and Zendaya, obviously, as well as Jacob Batalon as Ned, the guy in the chair, and now John Bernthal as the Punisher. And the Punisher is great in this films. In this film, his lines between Peter and even Zendaya are just genius. The guy has a lot of anger issues, as noted by a certain character. Not gonna reveal her identity. I said ID, but just Snow going in, it can be funny. MJ is a little bit of annoying, as she always is. She's that know-it-all girl that happens to be needing saving, I guess. She takes a ride with Peter a few times. By the way, how is Peter? Well, Peter is doing well, and in the beginning of the movie, he's having moments to where he's fighting bad guys, notably Tombstone and Scorpion, who they're portrayed by a I think the guy that portrays Scorpion is of African American and Cuban descent. He's a Canadian actor. And then you have the guy that portrays Tombstone. He's obviously African American, but he's an albino. And I couldn't really place where I saw Tombstone, but then I think I remember him in Power Man, Luke Cage, season 1 or 2 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments. But that's basically it. So they're kind of merging like Netflix shows into the Disney spiel that is the MCU. But yeah, more into Peter. He has this unique laboratory, this little lab. It's kind of like a garage, but it's not. He establishes this in his apartment. It's apparently his his home, right? We see him get in the end of the last film, No Way Home. We saw how he got a new apartment with his little GED book he planned on to study. He never went to college, which is surprising because he didn't in any way want to jeopardize what Doctor Strange did in erasing everybody's memory. So nobody knows who Peter Parker is. They only know who Spider-Man is. But in that 4-year absence, not only has his friends been going through those years at MIT, I think they're going towards the senior year. Peter Parker has been like increasing his fame as Spider-Man. So this kind of blends in with that of like, I think Spider-Man 2 and even 3, when, you know, Peter, portrayed by Tobey Maguire, he is famous now. He's like a celebrity basically. This Spider-Man, he's got a key to the city, right? And it's kind of like in the beginning of Spider-Man No Way Home, when he has that tech suit that was given to him by Tony Stark, you know, the one in Infinity War before Thanos snapped him away, and the same one he came back in when he was snapped back into existence by the Hulk. Yeah, I wonder how many people remember that scene. Anyway, so the Hulk is also in this one, as is shown in the trailers. Yes, there is a significant and very good, well done fight between Peter Parker and Bruce Banner as the Hulk. He goes to Bruce Banner in help of his problem. Yeah, his problem. So Peter's problem is that he is mutating. His body, his arachnid DNA is apparently going off the rails. He's producing his own webbing. He no longer needs his artificial web shooters, which he still uses somehow. And during this movie, he develops a way to suppress the DNA to keep from turning into a monster. And I'm, of course, quoting the film, but this becomes significant as he uses it, you know, as a certain, not a MacGuffin, but a way to subdue the bad guy in the film, the one that is body hopping through all these bodies. And yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that first, because that's the first bad guy we see. Well, not the first bad guy, but, you know, the first significant bad guy. And it kind of reminds me, now that I think about it, of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, when Spider-Man, you know, Miles Morales, he was fighting against I think his name was Spot, and it seemed like this enemy is just a nuisance, not really a big deal, but he becomes so much more of an Omega level threat later on in the film. That's kind of how this is. You have an enemy that is quite powerful in the beginning, but then becomes even more powerful. But people may have guessed the identity towards this body hopper. I'm not going to say it here because this is non-spoiler, but it is kind of surprise. It is now Sunday, or Saturday, and I really want to express how I feel about this film regarding just how it is as a Spider-Man. We never got to see this version of Peter Parker get bitten by the radioactive spider. We never see him become Spider-Man. Of course, he's still got his makeshift suit, and he's got the beanie and everything that he wears during the cold weather. So just to let you know how he dresses when it's in winter, which is something that the Sam Raimi films and the Andrew Garfield films didn't do. They never showed Peter in like an actual coat while he's wearing a spider suit. And I'm wondering how that looks to enemies, because when he's web slinging in this beanie and coat and fighting certain bad guys like Scorpion or Tombstone, as well as various others, you see these guys, but you never really know who they are, I guess. One has like a blade on his foot, like it's some kind of skate or something or whatever. Anyway, so he, they must think he looks a bit ridiculous and even childlike, you know, with the whole beanie and the hood, you know, the coat. But that was my problem with these films, is that Spider-Man looks too damn young. But I think it's just a matter of gradually getting used to it, because this is kind of like a Spider-Man that you have to get accustomed to if you're used to the ones with Tobey Maguire, you know, those films directed by Evil Dead director Sam Raimi. And then you have the Andrew Garfield ones, which those I thought was a good reboot, if you will. Not that we really needed that, but it was good regardless. But this one is when you get the sense of multiverse Spider-Man. There's obviously multiverse Spider-Man, as we saw in No Way Home. So how can I get into this? Like I said, you see his laboratory, and he's got a bunch of different gadgets. You see him make all his gadgets, his web slinging gadgets. He has like web bombs. He calls them web grenades that he throws, and they burst with webbing just going everywhere, and it pretty much works against his enemies. Spider-Man even uses it against a tank that has been taken over and acquired for set purposes. You see that in the trailer. This is where you see the Punisher when the Punisher is trying to stop it, and Peter is telling John Barthol, aka I forgot his name. Oh, Frank Castle, to basically let him handle it because the Punisher is gonna, as an anti-hero, he's most likely gonna kill innocent people. But of course, they have this cute little funny dialogue, arguing over something that was apparently done on Staten Island. There was something that happened on Staten Island where Spider-Man saves Frank, aka the Punisher. I don't quite remember that. I don't think I've heard of that. I gotta look that up. But yeah, so I really don't know how to get into it without spoiling it. So that's pretty much the gist of this video. It was good. It was like, it wasn't really creative. It was funny, but there was just so much that could be done. Like I said, I think we're going into like maybe a second set. The first trilogy was done pretty well, and this is the beginning of a second trilogy. And it seems to me that this Spider-Man, he always seems to need help, but he wants help from his friends. And we've been wanting we've been wanting Tom Holland's Peter Parker to be alone, because according what happens in No Way Home, his Aunt May dies. And you should have seen that, so I don't care about spoiling that part, because that's important to this film, because the very actress, Marissa Tomei, I think I said her name right, she plays May Parker. And no, there's not a Ben Parker, but she passed away. She died because of Green Goblin. But the reason why I mention that is because this is the first time we see Peter alone. He's having to live by himself. He no longer lives with his Aunt May, and he has his own apartment. Don't know what he's doing for his education. I don't even know what he's doing for work, but apparently he is somehow able to afford his rent. He's able to pay his bills. Never really shows that, but that's not really important. It would have been a nice little touch to kind of show us how he's making money, for those that are curious, for those mature viewers that are curious, because you kind of want to know. Is he just getting by, or people just get him stuff? Does he get money via his alter ego Spider-Man? Is Peter getting any money, if you get what I mean? And you see him. Oh yeah, I want to mention, there's like this radar system that Ned has developed to not really unmask Spider-Man, but to find Spider-Man, when he's swinging about, and ultimately thank him for saving Ned's life. And we see that because, of course, as you would suspect, Peter does meet up with MJ and Ned introduces himself in his own cocky way. I'm not a weirdo. He's a little weird. MJ is that little smart-ass woman, biracial woman that apparently she's smart, but and I say biracial because Zendaya, she's actually biracial, so I'm not trying to be, disrespectful about anybody's race or ethnicity here. I'm biracial myself, so I kind of feel bad if people try to say anything negative about me saying that. But anyway, Zendaya, she does very well at being MJ. I don't like her version of MJ, but I still accept it because I guess this is for this Peter. He likes her because she's smart and she can speak his language. She literally helps him with his inhibitor that he has in the back of his head, because he can't quite figure out why it's overheating in times. And about his mutation, yeah, his mutation really does take hold in a way that it makes him stronger. His eyes turn black, as you saw in the trailer, because apparently when the spider that bit him gets upset or is stressed out, is threatened in any way, its eyes turn black. And I would like for those bits that explain the spider to be maybe on the film longer, or for them to go deeper into that, because I'd like to know the particular species that bit Peter, and it doesn't really showcase why his body is behaving this way, despite it being just it's mutating, it's going through a transition phase. A spider has 3 cycles according to the trailer, with the narrator Keith David, as you may have guessed. Yeah, his voice is unique. He's narrating and saying the lines, "A spider has 3 phases." Anyway, Florence Pugh makes a brief appearance as Black Widow. What's her name? I forget her name. Oh, Yelena Bellanova, I think. She was last seen in Thunderbolts, aka the New Avengers, which she mentions she's got an office in her place, her apartment, or headquarters. I'm putting everything in quotes because I'm quoting the film. And she helps Peter involving his fight against the body hopper, because Peter can't track her, especially when he starts mutating, or I'm not really going to say mutating, but when he starts going through his problem, his phase, he's no longer able to sense the body hopper. In the beginning he is, when he first meets him, but he can't really do it anymore, so he doesn't know that the body hopper takes over certain people. I won't spoil that, but and because of that, and about his sense, his spider sense is considered the strongest of the 3 Spider-Men, as was told by Green Goblin to him in No Way Home, because he was able to tell just like that the Green Goblin has taken over Norman Osborn's body, because there's like a personality shift between them. Anyway, so without further ado, I kind of want to end this little review because of time, and so yeah, do I think you should check it out? Definitely. It's quite fun for the whole family. It's just, there's a lot to unpack, and I really can't tell you a lot in this review because I'm trying not to spoil it, and I'm doing this improv style without any notes. Just know going in that you're gonna have fun, you're gonna laugh. The audience in front of me, I've seen it 3 times now, was laughing the whole time. They would not shut up, little kids, but anyway, yeah, and I just, I can't get over John Bernthal as the Punisher. He's just too damn good, man. He's really good at this. He's, saying, don't give me that simple little bullshit, and he talking that deep voice. He's in the Odyssey. What kind of prison can hold a man like that? Talk about Odysseus. And now he's trying to help Peter with his problem. As obviously you imagine Peter does team up with him at the end. Well, not the end, but eventually. With that said, thank you so much for listening to my review. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one in my spoiler review.